I've been wanting to do this for a while, so let's stop wasting time and dive right in. Number 5. A Night in Terror Tower. This was one of the first Goosebumps books I read, and I have to say it still holds up greatly today. This is a story that has one of the scariest examples of existential horror ever in the series, and the reason for this is because not only do our two heroes have to worry about a cloaked figure trying to murder them, but there also comes a point in the story where they slowly lose their memories of not only their own family, but also themselves as well. This was an idea that truly got under my skin when I first read this, and still gets under my skin today. It would be almost like having a huge part of yourself stripped away, and just imagine how lonely it would be to completely forget your loved ones. Some might be put off by the last third of the book, since it derails from the horror and takes a dark fantasy route, but it still has a really good twist. Number 4. Werewolf Skin. This was one I read fairly recently, but it has one of the most unique takes on werewolf genre ever. Basically, a kid named Alex stays with some relatives for a while and discovers that werewolves might be running amok in their town. He also learns that they are able to transform simply by wearing the flesh of a werewolf. So I can't help but wonder if R.L. Stine got inspiration from the Skinwalker legend, since they transform in a similar way. But damn, did R.L. Stine tell a creatively fun story. Also, Alex is told to stay away from the people next door and soon discovers that they are werewolves. But he soon learns the werewolves might be closer than he thinks. I also have to applaud all the turns that this book had taken, because there were so many moments where my expectations were subverted, and this book is a fine example of how well Stine takes monsters we are familiar with and can still add a unique spin on them. Number 3. Night of the Living Dummy 2. This was one that I felt like was 10 times better than the first one. The first one took a long time for anything to get going, and when it did, it felt somewhat anticlimactic. This, however, Slappy decides to one-up Mr. Wood by completely destroying this family. It's actually very heartbreaking to see Amy Kramer's family slowly start to treat her like she's crazy, and even turn against her somewhat, because it shows just how lonely she truly is in this situation. Slappy is doing all this horrible stuff to make Amy seem like the bad one, all for his own twisted plan. We all know Slappy's goal of making as many slaves as he can, which is the whole reason he does this, so that she eventually won't be able to turn to her family and will have to answer to him instead. It's really fucked up when you think about it. Number 2. The Haunted Mask. Yeah, you all saw this one coming, I know, but people don't consider this one of the best Goosebumps books for nothing. It centers on Carly Beth, a character you can truly sympathize with who is always getting picked on. So, when she gets a chance to get back at people with a new scary mask she got, you're happy for her. Until she starts to get carried away with the revenge and starts to nearly assault people. She then soon discovers that the mask has become one with her flesh and is unable to take it off. The themes of this book are explored so well in this story, because it focuses on her need for revenge and the eventual obsession she has for carrying it out, which brings out a very dark side to her, courtesy of the mask. This shows how a desire for revenge can truly damage a person and bring out a side to them they didn't even think they had. It also has a very strong message about accepting yourself despite how others might perceive you. Overall, a really powerful book and one of the best for a good reason. Before I get to my number 1 pick, here's some honorable mentions. These are stories that would have made the list if the list were a little longer. Attack of the Mutant. Very fun read, and almost reminded me of the 60s Batman TV show almost. Especially the episode. Calling All Creeps. Probably one of the best revenge tales ever in this series. Vampire Breath. Very unique spin on the whole vampire thing, but like, I will admit it is pretty weak in some areas. The Headless Ghost. This one had a very subtle approach with its scares, which ultimately made them stronger. Piano Lessons Can Be Murder. This one had some surprisingly dark themes for this series. The Haunted School. Very well told story with some horrifying implications. And now for my number one pick. The Cuckoo Clock of Doom. Normally a story with a completely insufferable antagonist slash secondary protagonist like Tara should drastically harm the story, but thankfully it's handled very well here, because it ultimately gives you a protagonist where you can root for, that is Michael, due to how shitty his life it truly is. You desperately want to see him get back at his sister, so of course you want him to turn the cuckoo's head around so his sister will get blamed instead. But instead he finds that his life is now being told backwards. Tara is now gone since she is not born yet, and of course Michael is happy at first, but then he discovers that time will not stop going in reverse, and must get the bird's head turned around before he ends up vanishing as well. Remember how I said A Night in Terror Tower had one of the most scariest examples of existential horror ever in the series? Well, this has the most scary example of existential horror ever in the series. Because forgetting about those you love is one thing, but imagine what it'd be like to not only completely disappear, but to be forgotten by those you love as well. And that dreadful moment slowly gets closer and closer with each passing day. These raise the stakes for our protagonist so much higher than that there is a real sense of anxiety with the more time that passes in the book, since you know that he has to find some way to turn this bird's head around or he will eventually be totally erased. And there's always something preventing him from doing it, so that makes the journey so much harder and ultimately will leave you nervous to turn the page due to the fact that you don't really know how far back he will go as the story progresses, which made the story truly nerve-wracking to read in some areas, but it's ultimately made the book hard to put down as well. But one of the main reasons as to why this is the best is the ending, because it is one of the best karmic twists ever in this series. And as messed up as it is, you can understand why Michael would be reluctant to go back and fix everything. It is also cool how much debate this book has caused people, since they always discuss if Michael is justified. And that was my top 5 favorite Goosebumps books. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to like and self more content.